What's up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be guiding you through what a robo-advisor is, how they work, and how to actually use one. I will share my screen with you as we go through the process so I can take you into what they're talking about when they're asking you these questions to get you into a portfolio. A robo-advisor is a way to have a financial advisor create a portfolio for you, except it's a computer versus a human. And it's kind of the same technology that an actual human uses, but instead of talking and sitting face to face with a financial advisor asking you these questions, you just answer the questions in the computer. And I've worked as a financial advisor myself. When I did so, I would take clients through a certain questionnaire, and then I would go enter those questions into the computer to create a portfolio for them. So it's pretty much a very similar thing, except you save yourself a good chunk of money on the fee. So that being said, if you are working with a financial advisor, make sure they're offering you more than just portfolio construction, because if that's all you're getting from them, you can get that from a robo-advisor at a much cheaper cost. But if they are offering you some other financial guidance like planning and goal setting and accountability and all of that and check-ins, that is worth more than just a portfolio allocation. Now, how do robo-advisors work? They typically take you through some questions, and what they're trying to do is gauge how conservative or how aggressive you are. They will put together a portfolio based on your answers. When you put money into this account, the money gets allocated into the different pieces of pie that your allocation is. So for example, if you put in $1,000 and 50% is in large cap stocks and 25% is in international, as in 25% is in small caps, then $500 would go into an S&P fund of some sort, $250 would go into an international fund, and $250 would go into the small cap. So you wouldn't have to figure out which investments to pick. The firm that you're working with already has investments for each piece of the pie, and that's how they break up the money. So taking it one step back, what is diversification? Just picture a pie divided into different slices. Each slice is going to be a different size based on how you answer the question. So someone that answers it more conservatively is going to have larger slices in the more aggressive pieces, like the stock side of things, and it's going to have smaller slices in more conservative investments like bonds. If, on the other hand, you answer very conservatively, your slices of conservative investments are going to be larger than your aggressive investment slices. A robo-advisor goes in and just makes sure that money keeps into these different sized slices for you. So you don't have to think about it. You can just put in $50 every couple weeks. The money gets allocated into the investment portfolio without you having to do anything. So it's really a great set it and forget it way. All you have to do is answer the questions, create the account, and decide how much you're ready to invest on a regular basis. And before you do that, if you need help figuring out when it is time for you to invest, take a look at this video, because I do walk you through some steps to take before you start investing so that you can build the foundation to start investing in a smart way. Let's dive right in. I'm going to show you how to use Etrade's robo-advisor as well as Fidelity's robo-advisor. We're going to start with Etrade because that's what I'm most familiar with. It is where I worked for several years, so I've walked tons of people through this process. So I'll just bring you along with me. Looking for the robo-advisors, so under account types, here are the different accounts. I do know that Core Portfolios is the name of their robo-advisor. If you didn't know that, you can click on Managed Accounts or Managed Portfolio, and it brings you to the different options. Core Portfolio is their robo-advisor. As you can see, it's automated investing, $500 minimum to click Get Started, and then it's gonna walk you through these 12 questions, and that's gonna gauge how conservative or how aggressive you wanna be. For this, if it were just me filling this out myself, I'll just answer as if it were myself. We're gonna say build wealth. If this is an IRA or a different retirement account, then I would click save for retirement. But if it's just a brokerage account that you're using, you can click this goal or to build wealth. How much do you plan to invest? Let's say you're going to do the minimum and start with 500. And let's say every month you want to put in, say, $50 every 2 weeks. I need this money in 11 years or more. I'm gonna invest for the long term, and then I will withdraw it over time. Which scenario would you be most comfortable with? A, so this is asking if you were to invest $100,000 initially, after 1 year, how would you feel if these different hypotheticals happen? So if you invested $100,000 and after year 1, so see down here it says average case, the purple is best case and the blue is worst case. So you invest $100,000, after 1 year you have $105,000, or in a best case scenario it grew to $114,000. In the worst case scenario, you decreased in value and now only have $88,000. Or compared to B, that average case is 106, the upside is 119, the downside is 84,000. They're asking these questions to assess your level of ability to take on risk. Portfolio C, you have 107,000, or in a really good case, 124, or 79,000 in a bad case. In this one, it's 108, 130, or 71. So you want to really get in tune with, like, okay, that downside number. If you invested $100,000 and next year it was $71,000, how would you feel? Because looking at the positive side, you can say, oh my God, that would be great. I would love to have $130,000, meaning you made $30,000 in 1 year. But you have to know that the reverse can happen too. If you can gain $30,000, you can also lose $30,000. So pay attention to that. This one's going to be even more aggressive, right? So in an average case, you have 109,000. In a really good market, you have 135,000. And in a bad market, you might have $65,000. So for me, I would go with this one just because I've seen the markets over time and I'm comfortable taking on that risk, but not everyone's the same. You don't have to be comfortable with that. Just pick the one that you think you can most accept. I like the idea of this 135, and I know the risk is that could easily turn to 65,000 instead of 135,000. But for me, I'm going to go with this one. This brings us to the next question. What is your investing style for this account? Generally speaking, the more risk you take on, the higher the potential for returns, and vice versa, which is what I was just talking about. So you want to ask yourself, okay, with this account, do you want to play it safe? You care most about minimizing risk, even though it might mean accepting lower returns. You're in the middle ground. You'd like to see some growth, but you're not comfortable taking on too much risk. Growth focused, you want high returns over the long haul and are okay with sometimes seeing the market fluctuate. Or the most aggressive, you seek the highest long-term return and can tolerate very high amounts of risk. For me, I'm gonna click this, but please go with how you feel on these questions. What would you do? Imagine the value of your portfolio dropped 20%, but you didn't need the money for 10 years. Going back to that 100,000, it dropped 20%. Instead of having 100,000, you have $80,000. What would you do? Keep it, stay the course? Would you move to a less risky investment in a year after that happens? You see your accounts dropped and you might think, oh man, I want to get a little bit more conservative. Would you 3 months as soon as you start seeing this drop? Or would you immediately move to more conservative investments? So you want to pick which one you would do. And keep in mind, you don't need the money for 10 years in this question. For me, I would stay the course because I've seen what happens with markets, right? They go up and down. If you pull out in the short run, you could really hurt yourself. But again, go with how you feel for these answers. This is designed to create a portfolio that you're going to be happy with. If you pick based on my answers or what you think you should answer, then when you see the portfolio doing its thing, you're likely to back out. Versus if you just went with how you actually felt, you'd be more likely to stick with the portfolio. Which scenario would you prefer? Hypothetical 1-year investment returns. So you want to look at the green compared to the red. Best case scenario, you have a 61% gain, but in a worst case, you could lose 46%. These are the same kind of questions, just asked in a different way, using different visual graphs. So they want to get the idea of how you really truly feel. For myself, I would pick this one. If I was closer to retirement, this would be totally different, by the way. If I was 10 years within that from retirement, these answers would be way different. I'm 36 right now. I have a long time horizon before I plan on using this money that I'm investing or would be investing. So that's why I'm answering like this. How much do you care about outpacing the cost of living? This is saying, how much do you care about keeping up with inflation? So inflation's 2 to 3%. If you want to outpace that, you've got to invest more aggressively than something that would earn you 2 to 3%. So if you didn't really care, if you just kind of wanted to maintain your purchasing power, then you might not want to outpace it significantly, but I would want to. How would you feel about the value of your account rising and falling, even if it meant greater returns in the long run? Very uncomfortable, uncomfortable, neutral, comfortable, or very comfortable? I don't love the idea of my account rising and falling, more so falling, right? I don't think anyone really likes the idea of their account falling, but I'm very comfortable with it because I know it's part of the process. You can always change, like if you want to start out on a more conservative thing and then like as you get used to it and more comfortable with it, then you can change your portfolio around. It's not best to be like making changes all the time, but you do have the freedom to do it. If you're brand new and you're like completely new to this, you might want to kind of dip your toes in and then say, okay, I can handle this, and then you could move more aggressive. If you're not needing the money for a long time and you can take on risk after you learn about it and all of that. So don't feel like you're locked in. Okay, want to add a specific investing focus? Yeah, why don't we look at this one? Socially responsible investing. That sounds great. High potential, high risk. I knew my answers would come out that way because that's how I was answering the questionnaire, but this is going to look different for everybody. Based on what you've told us about your time frame and your risk tolerance, this is the portfolio we recommend. You indicated that you want to maximize your returns and significant market swings don't faze you. True. I mean, sort of true. It phases me, but like I'm still comfortable with it. Okay, goal, build wealth, initial deposit. So just kind of review this and then click continue. So if you got to that and it said 99% stocks and you were like, I don't really know, then you would go back and reassess it. Or for me, if the answers came out and it was like 50% bonds, 50% stocks, then I might say like, maybe I answered it a little bit too conservative for my actual feelings. And then you can go back through and on the screen, if you scroll down, see other options, you get there and you're like, I'm not sure that I want to be that aggressive, then it gives us less aggressive options. Less risk, more stability, but with slightly lower potential returns. So instead of the 99% stock that it was recommended based on your answers, it shows you another alternative, including 20% bonds. This also will give you the breakdown of large cap to small cap to international emerging markets, just so you get an idea of how that would actually be broken down. It also shows you an average historical returns based on investing like this. So you can take a look at that. See the worst case scenario, this was down 46%. Really think about that because this could happen to you. And if you want something a little bit less risky, you see the average isn't too different. Take a look at those. You can keep this, you can choose these. That gives you some flexibility so you don't have to just be stuck with the one that came out based on your answers. Almost there. So then you pick your account type. So if I were to do this, it would be a joint with my husband and I. If you were to come in here and do this, you would just enter this information. It would probably take another 5 minutes from here and you would get your account set up. So here's the process that they'll take you through. Enter all this information, click submit, and then it would open the account for you. Then it'll ask you like, how do you want to fund the account? You could just transfer from your bank. That way, like every couple of weeks, you can make the deposit into your account on a regular basis. So that's Etrade. All right, let's dive into Fidelity. I've never used their site for a robo advisor, so I just Googled Fidelity robo advisor and found out that their version is called Fidelity Go. And so here we are. Let's get started. I'll walk you through opening up an account with them using a robo advisor. So here you can watch a video on how this works. You could explore it. Let's see, answer a few questions and we'll suggest an investment strategy. Okay, I was born in 1983. I'll say just me. If I were actually opening this, I would open it with my husband, but I don't want to make it confusing right here. I'm investing for something else. I'll need the money in about 15 years. Let's say we have $1,000 to start with and we're going to contribute $100 per month. Where would you be most comfortable placing yourself on the risk tolerance scale. So you want to answer this for yourself. Do you feel like you want to minimize short-term losses or maximize total returns? And you can click what does this mean if you do want some help with that. Here's the personalized investment growth portfolio. Aggressive growth, 85% stocks. They show the breakdown here of how they would invest that $1,000. So we've got 60% domestic, 25% foreign, you've got bonds. Then if you scroll down, what I like about this is it shows this, okay, in 15 years, here's what my investment is going to look like. At the end of 15 years, I'll contribute $18,900, and in an average market, I will have $37,000. In a weak market, we would have $22,000 at the end of 15 years, most likely. But in an average, we'd have $37,000. That shows the power of investing, and you could really see, like in the beginning, the majority of your growth comes from your own deposits. That's that dark blue. And then over time, that the compounding really kicks up the portfolio and you really start to get a much larger return from the actual market than you do from just depositing as you did in the beginning. But you can scroll down and get more information that this is going to cost you about 32 cents per month on average. So this is 0.35%. Let's see, if you wanted to look at another option, let's see, explore other strategies. So here was the suggested one based on the questions that we were asked, but you can scroll through, see this is more conservative, this is more aggressive. So if you want to just see like what does a more conservative approach look like, and it does give you the average return or the low end. So that's pretty nice. They're not showing the high end because that's probably too tempting for people, but I like that it shows the average because that's really what you could expect. If you just look at the high end of things, that's not realistic for a longer time period. Then if you wanted to go with this one, then you just come in here, you create an account, and you just get started through their account opening process. I'm guessing this would take another 5 to 10 minutes, just adding in your name and your personal information. And then it would bring you to a funding page where you would actually connect your bank account, move the money over, and it would get invested into that portfolio without you having to do anything else. So it does keep it pretty simple for you. Pretty much all of the brokerage firms have their version of Robo Advisor. So if you already are working with a firm, you could just type in XYZ Robo Advisor and you'll get that advisor for that firm that you're with. Robo Advisors are a great way to invest consistently at a low cost without racking your brain on figuring out what to invest in every time you get paid. They take the thought process out of investing because say you weren't using a Robo Advisor and you decided to invest in stocks or funds, then you might have to go in every time you get paid and figure out, okay, now what do I do with this money? And that could be really difficult to invest if, say, the market's down. Then you might say, I'll wait till it drops a little bit further and then I'll invest. And it gets into emotional investing. So getting yourself into a system and a process to just invest on a regular basis really sets you up for long-term success. No one can really statistically invest well over time if they're just emotionally investing, because what we tend to do is want to get in when markets are up because we get excited that they're going to keep going up. We want to get out when markets go down because it's scary losing money, when we really should be getting in when markets are going down and getting out when they're going up. So we really should be doing the reverse, but statistically speaking, that just does not happen. So doing something like a Robo Advisor just eliminates that whole thing, and you could just invest for the long term without overanalyzing and overthinking anything. And really, the cost does add up over time, but you have to remember that you're paying for a service. So if the cost is 0.25%, then you're paying $25 for every $10,000 you have invested over the course of a year. Over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and over hundreds of thousands of dollars, yes, that does add up, but you have to think about the gain and what you're actually paying for. So if you're paying $25 per $10,000 invested, let's say you make an average of 7%, then you're gonna make $700 over the course of a year. So yes, you're paying $25, but you're making $700. I think that makes sense. That is like a good way to think about it. Like, yeah, I'll spend $25 to make $700, right? So sometimes people get way too caught up in the fee and they just want to penny pinch and save every single cent that they can, when you forget that you're paying for the convenience of being able to automatically invest without thinking, without worrying about it, and just letting someone else do the work for you. It's like if you were to hire someone to help you around the house or to help you with anything else. You're paying for something and you're getting something in return. Where I think things add up is if you're invested in something that also invests in high cost mutual funds, that can really tack on fees that aren't necessary for you to be paying. So make sure your robo-advisor does use low cost index funds or ETFs instead of mutual funds that can be pretty pricey. Anyway, take a look at what you're investing in and just make sure it's not something that's like super high cost on top of the management fee that you're paying. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I'd be happy to be a resource for you. Be sure to subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.